Coming to you live from the Mistopheles Studios, it's Dark Fringe Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Dark Fringe Radio. I am your host, Will Martinez, and I'm here, of course, with my co-host, Jay Galosi. Jay, what is going on, brother? How are you tonight?
Just another day in paradise. I believe it was 55 fucking degrees this morning. So
yeah.
Maybe it might be why I'm a little bit.
Yeah, the weather's been actually kind of weird as of late here in Florida.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be hot tomorrow again, back up to the 80s. So it's just like, what the
Thank
fuck?
Christ.
But anyways, enough about the fucking weather here in Florida. But I wanted to thank you guys for joining in on another episode of Dark Fringe Radio. Tonight, we're going to have a really interesting topic here, Jay. We're going to be talking about misinformation. We're going to be talking about the whole Joe Rogan controversy and what's going on with him and how that affects everyday people like you and me. Because you and I, well, maybe not so much you and I, but people our age and maybe older and maybe some younger, do rely on mainstream media. And we're going to be talking about how dangerous that can be because
yeah, it can be.
Yeah, there's a lot of interests that are played here, especially when it comes to the advertisers. So we're gonna be getting into all that: who, what, where, when, how all comes together here in a second. But of course, just want to let everybody know how you can listen to the podcast very easily. Jay, go to our website, darkfringeradio.com. Go right there, and you can see all of our episodes, all our daily content, things that we post on a daily basis. We always got stories there, things about horror movies, sci-fi stuff, UFOs, videos, this and that and the other. A lot of content. Please go there and subscribe to our website. Go there. And also our social media, Dark Fringe Radio, on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. So you can find us everywhere on social media. Just look us up at Dark Fringe Radio. So enough of that, Jay. Get that shit out of the way. Let's get right into the meat and potatoes, not of the subject but tonight, but our first segment for the day. And of course, it is our favorite segment. What the F, Florida Man? Jay, what do you have for us for What the F, Florida Man?
What the F, Florida Man? Now, I'm going on what I'm remembering from what I read this afternoon.
Okay.
Will and I had decided to do this. We've been trying to do this. There's been some scheduling mishaps. It's been a thing. So I knew we were recording tonight, so I waited till
the topic's been the same, by the way. So yeah, it hasn't changed. Yeah.
We've been on point with the topic.
Right.
It's just schedule matching up. These things happen.
Yeah.
So I decided to wait till this afternoon at lunch to look at my Florida Man. And the very top one is the one that I went with because it says it all.
Okay.
Florida man arrested for directing traffic while urinating.
Wow. So he was directing traffic while he was urinating at the same. That's a feat in itself, Jay.
It's a multitasker.
Yes. For women that say that men can't multitask, obviously this guy has definitely broken the barrier.
He's got it. He was directing traffic with one hand while it was
just flowing
in vain with the other. So
yeah. Details, Jay. Details. Let's hear it.
Winter Park. Some congestion. 2 cars in the middle of the intersection. One man is peeing in the middle of the intersection, waving people by.
Okay.
Police officer happens across said incident, thinks there's an accident because there's such a backup, comes along the man to realize that he is urinating. The car, the guy said he just figured it'd be okay, allow traffic to go by him. Turned out he had been smoking pure THC resin in his car.
Wow.
And really had to pee.
So he was just on a carpet ride of THC.
High as a motherfucker.
Yeah, well, listen, I can see how that could happen. You could be, directing traffic and peeing at the same time. I mean, happens to the best of us in some days,
When nature calls, William. When nature calls.
Now, was he directing traffic with the direction of his pee? That's what I want to know.
From what I've heard from eyewitness accounts,
like, was he peeing this way? It's like, hey, all right, everybody, pee this. I'm peeing this way. Go this way. Yeah.
Let's go.
You turn. So he's flipping it out back that way. What is he doing, bro?
From what I understand, he was doing the helicopter. Helicopter.
The old helicopter.
Trying to get a chopper on site.
Gotcha. All right. Well, he was trying to do something there, man. That's some typical Florida crazy man shit. I'm sure he was I'm sure he's probably drunk on top of that with the THC.
I would almost believe it.
Yeah. I mean, come on. That wasn't just THC on top of that. I mean, let's get honest here. Come on. I mean, I'm sure.
No, that guy was. Yeah. I mean, they said they found a empty jar of pure resin that was freshly smoked.
Listen, that was the last thing he probably did.
Who knows where the night led him?
What did he compound before that? Right. Yeah.
Guy's directing traffic while holding his dick. Let's be real. Who knows what that guy's capable of? Wow. I mean, that's impressive. So
it is impressive.
Who knows what it was? Maybe he had some crank at lunch, a little LSD for dinner, and a little weed for dessert, and
needed to let go. Hey, listen, here at Dark Fringe Radio, we salute you, Mr. Florida Man. Good job for directing traffic and peeing at the very same time, which definitely breaks the women's idea that man can't do two things at the same time. So there you go. I'm going to bring up that story every time a woman says that.
2022, William.
Yeah, I know.
2022.
I know. We got to be nice. I know. Well, I'm not going to be nice from this point on forward here, Jay, because we just finished with Florida Man, and we're going to be getting into, of course, the main topic for tonight, which is misinformation and the whole Joe Rogan controversy. So I want everybody to sit back, get ready for a hell of a ride tonight, because we're going to be dropping a lot of knowledge about what all this is about. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Hello, I'm Douglas Sardano, author of American Conspiracies and Cover-Ups.
Hi, my name is Jim Schmidt. I'm the author of The Way of Existence.
Hi, this is John Davis from the Flat Earth Society.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones, best-selling author and paranormal researcher.
This is Matt Landman, activist, filmmaker.
Hi, my name is Olympia Fonseca. I go by Oli. I am a Reiki master.
Hi, this is Emily Mintow-Stakely with What the Frick Live podcast.
Hi, my name is Todd Neese, and for the past 28 years plus, I've been a Bigfoot researcher.
Hi, I'm Dina Ray, and I'm the author of 7 books. My latest books are the bestseller and the sequel.
Hello, everyone. This is Ethan Clay from Ghost Founders.
My name is James Piles. I'm an author. I've written the short story, The Recall, and you can find my work at www.poweredbyrobots.com.
Hi, I'm Keith Evans. I'm the author of the book, The Hayes House Ghosts Are People Too.
Hi, I'm Mark Anthony. I'm known as the Psychic Lawyer and the Psychic Explorer. I'm the author of the bestsellers Evidence of Eternity and Never Letting Go.
Hi, I'm Mike Heston Rogers.
This is Robert Sullivan, author of The Royal Arch of Enoch, Cinema Symbolism, and Pact with the Devil.
Hi, this is Tammy Merhab Travis of Hollyweird Paranormal Podcast.
This is William Lawrence with BentLights.com.
Hey, this is Steve DeShavi.
This is Vincent Lords with Paranosis.
This is Vincent DeSanti, the director of Never Hike Alone, and you are listening to Dark Fringe Radio.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us back on our newest edition or episode of Dark Fringe Radio. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a very important subject here, Jay. We're going to be talking about misinformation. What's misinformation? A lot of people talk about it. Hey.
Lost.
Yes. But,
misinformation.
Yeah. Well, listen, misinformation now, this has become a real big thing now, Jay. Now because of how social media is and how a lot of the mainstream media is, unfortunately, news isn't delivered to us as facts anymore. It's delivered as an opinion piece, and it's skewed for obviously certain means and certain, political or financial gain, let's just say, at the end of the day. Now, we're going to be getting this whole Joe Rogan controversy. Oh, it's really, I mean, it's gotten so bad now, Jay, where it's become so more apparent. That's the problem. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's right in our face now. It's not so hidden like it used to be before. At least they tried to hide it before. You know what I mean? Now it's just like right in your fucking face.
There's no honor among thieves anymore.
No. So let's start with the timeline here with Joe Rogan. February 7th. I'm sorry, let's go back further. Excuse me. January 12th, there was an open letter that was sent to Spotify. It was signed over by 1,000 health professionals and scientists urging to tackle misinformation, Jay. around the pandemic. The letter cited an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience around the pandemic. The Joe Rogan Experience that featured physician and virologist Dr. Robert Malone, who had already been banned from Twitter for violating COVID misinformation policies. So on that day, he had Robert Malone on. This whole open letter went to Spotify. There was this doctor that has this following on Instagram where she kind of debunks, a lot of misinformation when it comes to COVID. Her name is Jessica Rivera. She's a children's doctor, a pediatrician.
Pediatrician, sir.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry. I couldn't get it out of my mouth.
I got you, homie.
Thank you, brother. So she was basically the one who basically helmed this whole letter to Spotify. Now, Jay, when we hear that there's these health professionals and these doctors that are setting their opinion, you're thinking that these are all doctors of the same ilk. You know what I'm saying? These are doctors that have direct knowledge of certain things, of, for instance, of viruses and vaccines and things of that nature. Come to find out, a lot of these health professionals that were cited in this letter to Spotify were veterinarians. Some of them were podcasters, which, hey, I love podcasters. We're podcasters. It's all good. But again, we're not health professionals. We're not health professionals. We're not here to give anybody any health direction. We're not here to tell you what to do with your body. We're not here to tell you anything. We're just presenting stuff to you for you to make your own decision at the end of the day. So, Jay, we had this, that letter went to Spotify. Then it started to kind of tumble down forward. Yeah. Next thing you know, what I call Act 2 is, you start seeing some of these musicians starting to petition to have some of their music removed from Spotify because of Joe Rogan supposedly spreading misinformation regarding COVID and the vaccines and all that stuff. So, of course, the one who came to the forefront was Neil Young. Joni Mitchell was another one, I believe, that came out to the forefront. A couple of their podcasters that are exclusive to Spotify, said that they would put their show on hold. But at the end of the day, Spotify has held their ground, and I'm going to commend them right now. Right now, I commend Spotify for not buckling to the mob because what the mob. Well, listen, I don't think it's going to happen because if it was going to happen, I really believe it was already going to happen. Why do I say that? Is because they went from this misinformation campaign against Joe Rogan, and they completely turned it now to a racist campaign against Joe Rogan. Now, Jay, you are a white male, 42 years old. You've listened to the Joe Rogan podcast before, haven't you? All the way through from one episode, at least a few episodes from beginning to end, correct?
Yeah. I've listened to a lot of them.
Okay, so has he ever come across to you as racist in any way, shape, or form? Okay, so
anything but.
Yeah, exactly. He's had people like Daryl Davis, who's a guy who basically has transformed 2,000 KKK members to drop their beliefs and their thoughts and actually, change to a decent human being and, change their ideals and their thoughts and their, their way of life. He's had millions of people on his podcast, not millions, hundreds of people on his podcast.
He's had a lot of experts on that have discussed those things. And the thing about the Joe Rogan Experience, it's meant to be an open format for shared ideas and not thought of as the word of a gospel in any way, shape, or form. In fact, if you listen to Joe Rogan at all, you'll hear him talk about how all of these different regionalities, races, something goes against it, and all of a sudden everybody circles the wagons. You'll hear him say that a lot, circling the wagons. And that's the last thing he wants. He thinks there shouldn't be any borders at all. He thinks there shouldn't be. It should just be people and their individualistic property. He couldn't be any less.
Yeah, Jay, you're right. That's what he's doing. He's having, just conversations with people that, may or may not be controversial in the field of study that they're giving their expertise or their views on. But at the same time, it's just a conversation. He's not saying these people are right or wrong. He's not telling anybody to believe these people or as right or wrong or as the gospel. He's just having conversation. And for these people to come out here, Jay, for instance, like Neil Young, who has been talking about let's been rocking in the free world, okay, for how many fucking years, right? With that fucking boring ass song. And, you know, talking about the whole premise of that song is a free world, and freedom of speech as well is included in that, I do believe. And what he's doing is going against that. Now, you know, Jay, there's a lot of, you know, nefarious, you know, back dealings with this stuff here too. A lot of people are not aware that Neil Young, he actually sold most of his library to a company that's owned by Blackstone. Now, why does that make any sense? Why does that even matter? One reason why, Jay. Blackstone has an advisor on their board who is the CEO of Pfizer. So how is that not connecting one dot to another? How do you not have some type of interest in something like that financially when you're kind of pushing, you know, this one narrative and then saying, hey, listen, this guy's pushing a misinformation? That's a tough pill to swallow when it comes from a guy like that.
Yeah, you might be going just a wee bit deep in the weeds there, my guy. I don't think the two are necessarily related. Neil Young selling most of his library to someone is Neil Young finding anybody that wants to actually buy Neil Young music, because most of those people are dead. That's also why.
But it's worth money, and Blackstone bought it.
Yes, Blackstone bought it. That gives them those rights, and obviously Pfizer owning that. But I think that's not where the hidden agenda is. I think the hidden agenda comes out more through the angry mob. I don't think it's necessarily through the Neil Young. I think Neil Young gets to be a figurehead and a spokesperson, gets to stand on a soapbox. And I believe Neil Young believes in what he's doing. I don't think he's doing it nefariously.
I agree and I disagree. I agree and I disagree.
I think it's the angry mob suddenly seeing that Joe Rogan has a bit of power and taking things out of context without talking about misinformation. How about doing some research? If you listen to a couple of podcasts, it really it's so clear it couldn't be any other way. Now Joe Rogan has come out and he's made certain concessions, and
let's talk about that here, Jay. Let's talk about the first apology. The first one, because there was two, obviously. Yeah, no, there was two. Let's get to.
I don't think the first one was really an apology. It was,
and it really wasn't an apology. It was kind of like, hey, listen, I'm kind of trying to do things different.
It was a concession. It was,
you know what I mean?
I get it. It was, I get it.
Right.
I've been playing in the dirt too long. It's time to take my bat.
Right.
I get it. That's what that was. Now the racist thing is interesting. So hit me on that one.
So yeah, we'll get into the racist thing here in a second, but let's talk about the first one.
The apologies. Sorry.
The apologies. So, you know, so eloquently put. Hold on.
Hello, friends. I wanted to make a video to address some of the controversy that's been going on over the past few days. And first of all, to say thank you to everyone that sent love and support. I truly, truly appreciate it. And it's been very nice to hear from you. I wanted to make this video, first of all, because I think there's a lot of people that have a distorted perception of what I do, maybe based on sound bites or based on headlines of articles that are disparaging. The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about 2 episodes, a little bit about some other ones, but specifically about 2. One with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Peter McCullough is a cardiologist, and he is the most published physician in his field in history. Dr. Robert Malone owns 9 patents on the creation of mRNA vaccine technology and is at least partially responsible for the creation of the technology that led to mRNA vaccines. Both these people are very highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion.
Okay, let me stop right there, Jay. If you don't mind. He's got these guys on his podcast that are not just some fucking guy from down the street that says, oh, I got this crazy conspiracy theory about the damn vaccines. No, these are fucking people that are leaders in their field.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And still, they still try to discredit this guy before having just conversations with these people. But again, it's about the reach that he has.
It's people not understanding the actual message being spoken. It's they have an idea of what they think it is,
right?
And that's what they're railing against.
Right.
It has nothing to do with anything because they haven't done any actual research. Which again is funny because that's kind of what their problem is that they think we don't do ours. I mean, Joe has not done his.
That's the problem. A lot of people have that same issue.
That's different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is. I had them on, and because of that, those episodes in particular, those episodes were labeled as being dangerous. They had dangerous misinformation in them. The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact.
That's so important, Jay. That key thing that he said right there is so important because people forget how many times the narrative when it came to COVID and the vaccines and how it worked and this and that has changed so many times, Jay. You've seen it. We've all seen it. Even Rachel Maddow on MSNBC said at one point, if you got the vaccine, that it would kill it right then and there. It would not be transferable. She said that on national television. Now, are they going to go back and say, oh, we made a mistake. We fucked up? You think MSNBC is going to say that? You think CNN is going to say that? You think Fox News is going to say that? Never. No. They're just going to keep running this next fucking story that's going to continue to push their narrative.
Yep.
Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact. If you said, I don't think cloth masks work, you would be banned from social media. Now, that's openly and repeatedly stated on CNN. If you said, I think it's possible that COVID-19 came from a lab, you'd be banned from many social media platforms. Now, that's on the cover of Newsweek. All of those theories that at one point in time were banned were openly discussed by those two men that I had on my podcast that have been accused of dangerous misinformation. I do not know if they're right. I don't know because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Do I get things wrong? Absolutely, I get things wrong, but I try to correct them. Whenever I get something wrong, I try to correct it because I'm interested in telling the truth. I'm interested in finding out what the truth is. And I'm interested in having interesting conversations with people that have differing opinions. I'm not interested in only talking to people that have one perspective. That's one of the reasons why I had Sanjay Gupta on, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who I respect very much, and I really enjoyed our conversation together. He has a different opinion than those men do. I had Dr. Michael Osterholm on at the very beginning of the pandemic. He is on President Biden's COVID-19 advisory board. I had Dr. Peter Hotez on, who is a vaccine expert. I'm interested in finding out what is correct and I'm also finding out how people come to these conclusions and what the facts are. Now, because of this controversy, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes with these controversies, but Neil Young has removed his music from the platform of Spotify, and Joni Mitchell and apparently some other people want to as well. I'm very sorry that they feel that way. I most certainly don't want that. I'm a Neil Young fan. I've always been a Neil Young fan. I'll tell you a story at the end of this about that. One of the things that Spotify wants to do that I agree with is that at the beginning of these controversial podcasts, like specifically ones about COVID, is to put a disclaimer and say that you should speak with your physician and that these people and the opinions that they express are contrary to the opinions of the consensus of experts, which I think is very important. Sure, have that on there. I'm very happy with that. Also, I think if there's anything that I've done that I could do better is have more experts with differing opinions right after I have the controversial ones.
Let me say something here, Jay. One When have you ever heard of MSNBC saying or CNN saying, "Oh, you know what? I think it's time for us to have more diverse, differing opinions and views broadcast on our show. That way, people can make a intelligent, informed, fact-based, decision on the things that they want to do with their bodies and their lives." Have you ever heard them say that, Jay?
No, I mean, most of the major news channels, they all have their own agenda that they push. You can tell which ones if you listen to them. It's, you couldn't get more black and white. And unfortunately, I didn't mean to use that, but it's appropriate. It's just, it's a shame to see the division that's there. And fortunately, the problem that a mass of society has is that they can't understand the difference between fact and feeling. People will say, don't judge my truth. Well, it doesn't really work that way. Truth is truth.
Truth is truth, right?
Truth is truth. And
right.
Joe Rogan, his podcast, the people he has on, usually he said it in that speech he was giving, that little monologue. He says, "I'm into finding out what the truth is. I don't know what it is, but I'm trying to have an interesting conversation with people who have a lot of knowledge and trying to find out how they came to that knowledge and how they came to that opinion."
Right.
Now, Joe Rogan sometimes disagrees with those opinions. Sometimes he doesn't. And part of the job is also kind of being affable, going kind of along with it. So you do it. There has to be a little bit of a give and take. You can't just say, "Oh, every flat earther is an idiot."
Right.
He could. He should. But
yeah, at the end of the day. Right. Yeah, no, you're right. And, again, Jay, it's all about the influence that he has at the end of the day. He pulls in 11 million viewers and downloads in a month, which, listen, all the alphabet channels out there don't even equate to that on primetime TV altogether combined. So there is the biggest disconnect. And that's the reason why they're having such a fucking issue with this guy, because of the influence that he has. I mean, 11 million downloads. That's a lot of fucking people, Jay. You know what I mean? And for what? He's having conversations, just like what you said, Jay, interested in finding the truth. And again, why are we going to cancel somebody like that? Why? Because he had somebody on his podcast that had differing, opinions that was, contrary to mainstream media. I don't know. That just doesn't sit well with me. Now, they're moving over to the racial thing, but we'll get to that here in a second. Let's finish up what Joe Rogan has to say.
I would most certainly be open to doing that. And I would like to talk to some people that have differing opinions on those podcasts in the future. We'll see. I do all the scheduling myself, and I don't always get it right. These podcasts are very strange because they're just conversations. And oftentimes I have no idea what I'm going to talk about until I sit down and talk to people. And that's why some of my ideas are not that prepared or fleshed out, because I'm literally having them in real time. But I do my best, and they're just conversations. And I think that's also the appeal of the show. It's one of the things that makes it interesting. So I want to thank Spotify for being so supportive during this time. And I'm very sorry that this is happening to them and that they're taking so much heat from it. And so now the Neil Young story. When I first of all, I'm not mad at Neil Young. I'm a huge Neil Young fan. I've always been a Neil Young fan.
So I'm going to omit that whole Neil Young story, but that's basically the gist.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I'm not a big Neil Young fan. They're just, and whatever. But Jay, there you go. I mean, that's his take on what the whole misinformation thing is. And, now, Jay, we know how it all works. If you guys, do your own research. I did research the other day. I found out that ABC, CBS, NBC, the top 15 advertisers are, Jay?
Moderna.
You're right on track. They're all big pharma companies. AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, all those, the top 15 paid advertisers, every one of those stations. So again,
Shocker.
listen, I'm just telling you what's out there. We're just giving you information. You make your own decision at the end of the day. But it's pretty clear to me that you are getting information from a very biased opinion when it comes to mainstream media. And it's all perpetuated by the advertisers. And the advertisers at the end of the day are big pharma, big agra, big tech, all those people. And there's nothing that we can do about it because they're the ones that run the show. So
at the moment,
yeah, unfortunately. So Jay, the money trail, we talk about this, well, listen, so now they've moved on to the racist tip, because obviously they couldn't get him with the misinformation. So, CNN has kind of like now perpetuated that Joe Rogan, has used racist terms. On February 4th, singer-songwriter India Ari posted on an Instagram compilation video of Joe Rogan using the N-word 24 times in episodes of the podcast that predicate his exclusivity deal with Spotify. Ari announced that she is removing her music from the platform. Now, of course, if you look at this video, you realize that a lot of these takes were taken out of context. He wasn't using the N-word in any type of derogatory way. He was usually explaining something that had to do with the N-word. Now, all that as it be seen, maybe he should not have said the word. I agree. Maybe he shouldn't have said it. At the end of the day, he still wasn't using it in a derogatory way. There wasn't a video that he did post about it because this was an episode that a lot of people, they also brought up an episode that he did say some kind of racist terms when it came to being dropped off in a bad area and being kind of dropped off in the Planet of the Apes. But again, we're talking about a comedian who is having conversations and high half the time and drinking.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about, listen, if this was fucking Don Lemon on CNN, you know what I mean? Mr. Straight Laced and all, or Anderson Cooper, you know what I mean? Saying these things, I get it. You know what I mean? It's out of line. But at the end of the day, Joe Rogan's a comedian. Not saying that he has a free reign to say the N-word either. But at the same time, comedians. And if you've ever been around comedians, there's comedy there's no boundaries when it comes to comedy, not even racist boundaries. You know what I mean? Because at the end of
the whole point of comedy is to find the very edge, the very line, and tiptoe just beyond it to make it just uncomfortable enough to make it funny. The problem is that everybody these days has no fucking sense of humor. And
and you always have people looking to point the finger at you.
He should not have used the word. There's no way to excuse it. That's just the way it is. That word, so much attached to it. Right. And to be honest with you, it's a word I'm uncomfortable with a vast majority of the time. I don't understand why. I mean, the stigmatism that comes with it and whatnot. Joe Rogan, it's not a word that should be said by anybody, period.
Right.
I get Joe Rogan was trying to make points. A lot of them were taken out of context, which should be kept in mind. But that doesn't excuse it. It explains it, doesn't excuse it.
Of course. And that's exactly what the point is here. It doesn't defend it, but at least it gives an explanation as to what he was trying to say. Never was in malice, and it never was to be derogatory in any shape or way form. Let's listen to his reaction to this whole thing here, Jay. Let me get this here. Give me 1 second.
Hello, friends. I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks fucking horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I thought as long as it was in context, people would understand what I was doing. Like that context was part of the clip we were talking about Red Fox, how Red Fox said that word on television in the 1970s and how times have changed so much since then. Or about how Richard Pryor used it as one of the titles of one of his albums. Or I was quoting a Lenny Bruce bit, or I was quoting a Paul Mooney bit, or I was talking about how Quentin Tarantino used it repeatedly in Pulp Fiction. Or I was talking about how a Netflix executive, ironically, used it because he was trying to compare it to another offensive word, and he said it out loud, and they fired him. Not calling anybody, or just saying the word out loud. I was also talking about how there's not another word like it in the entire English language, because it's a word where only one group of people is allowed to use it, and they can use it in so many different ways. Like if a white person says that word, it's racist and toxic, but a black person can use it, and it could be a punchline. It could be a term of endearment. It could be lyrics to a rap song. It could be a positive affirmation. It's a very unusual word, but it's not my word to use. I'm well aware of that now, but for years I used it in that manner. I never used it to be racist because I'm not racist, but whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you fucked up. And I clearly have fucked up. And that's my intention to express myself in this video, to say, there's nothing I can do to take that back. I wish I could. Obviously, that's not possible. I do hope that, if anything, that this can be a teachable moment. Because I never thought it would ever be taken out of context and put in a video like that. And now that it is, holy shit, it looks bad. And it's part of also me doing this podcast for thousands of hours, thousands of episodes, over 12 years. I said a lot of fucking stupid shit, which is fine when you're talking about most things, but not when you're talking about race. And there's another clip that I have to address. There's a clip from 11 years ago. I was telling a story on the podcast about how me and my friend Tommy and his girlfriend, we got really high. We were in Philadelphia, and we went to go see Planet of the Apes. And we didn't know where we were going. We just got dropped off by a cab, and we got dropped off in this all-black neighborhood. And I was trying to make the story entertaining, and I said, we got out, and it was like we were in Africa. It's like we were in Planet of the Apes. I did not, nor would I ever say that black people are apes, but it sure fucking sounded like that. And I immediately afterwards said, that's a racist thing to say. Planet of the Apes wasn't even in Africa. I was just saying there's a lot of black people there. But then I went on to talk about what a positive experience it was and how much fun it was to go to see this movie in a black neighborhood. It wasn't a racist story, but it sounded terrible. And like I said, you can have clunky stories about anything, but not about race. And so I deleted that whole podcast, but obviously somebody made a clip out of it and taken out of context. It looks terrible, but it looks terrible even in context. It's a fucking idiotic thing to say. And I was just trying to be entertaining. I certainly wasn't trying to be racist. And I certainly would never want to offend someone for entertainment with something as stupid as racism. My hope is that, look, I can't go back in time and change what I've said. I wish I could. Obviously, that's not possible. But I do hope that this can be a teachable moment for anybody that doesn't realize how offensive that word can be coming out of a white person's mouth, in context or out of context. My sincere and humble apologies. I wish there was more that I could say, but all of this is just me talking from the bottom of my heart. It makes me sick watching that video, but hopefully at least some of you will accept this and understand where I'm coming from. My apologies and much love. My sincere, deepest apologies and much love.
So there you go, Jay. I mean, at the end of the day.
Hey, is Israel Adesanya ready for a big fight on Saturday. They were on the podium talking about the fight, and somebody brought it up to Dana, and as he grabbed the mic, he's like, I got this. I'm black. I can talk about this. And he went on to defend Joe Rogan, talking about how idiotic it is that anybody would think that he was fucking racist. So, you know, he gave Joe Rogan support and love. And Israel Adesanya is somebody that him and Joe Rogan have had many deep conversations. And some of my favorite podcast episodes of Joe Rogan were the two that he had Israel Adesanya on, because such an interesting both conversations from different sides before and after the championship, and to hear the way that the two of them talked, it was very interesting conversation. And anybody that would think that Joe Rogan would be racist would just have to listen to those podcasts to get it.
Yeah. And he's had great conversation, and he's been against people, he's agreed with them. He's not agreed with them. You know what I mean? All different shapes and colors and sizes of people. It doesn't matter. It's just having conversation. And if he finds, if he feels like something's wrong, he says something about it. Yeah. He opens his mouth, but at the same time, he's open to saying at the same time, I may be wrong too. Tell me what your idea is. Tell me what you think. Tell me why you think that way. Give me some context to the reason why you come up with the certain, conclusions to certain things. Let me know. So maybe you can convince me. Maybe I'm seeing things in the wrong way. So that's, again, you can't fault a person for doing that. And again, that's just having conversation. But the real problem is about the reach that he has, the influence that he has. And it bothers the mainstream media because they have nowhere near the reach and the captivating audience that he has. It's just at the end of the day, that's what it is. And
it's a different world.
It is a completely different world. You're comparing apples to oranges. You cannot compare the two, but I think it's a complete hit job. And I've always said, if they can't get you one way, they'll try to get you another. And they always usually resort back to the racist tip, whether you're black or you're white. Yeah. It always goes back there. It always does. Because if they can't get you with one thing, they'll get you with the other. They always will. And, obviously he said some things in the past were obviously not so bright.
He shouldn't have.
But he's apologized. He's remove those episodes. This is not the first time he's actually apologized regarding this episode that happened many years ago. It just happened to come out again, and he has to re-apologize for some shit that happened, 11 years ago. So again, Jay, what's your final thought on this whole thing?
I think it's being blown out of proportion. I believe anybody that would listen to podcasts and let that be their one information source, they're misinformed on their own. You got to take in many sources. You got to read. You got to listen to multiple different podcasts from multiple different points of view. You have to watch things. You have to. You don't have to necessarily go with the, WNBC and the major. There's so many other ways to get the information, get it from an unbiased opinion, and that's really what everybody should be doing anyway. So. I hope everybody kind of lets Joe Rogan a little bit off the hook, lets it understand as to what he was trying to do. I have a feeling he'll be a little bit more conscientious about it in the future. Not that, again, I don't think he really did too many things wrong. He should never said the N-word, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Even though it wasn't used in the wrong context, you know what I mean? He was just using it in a different context. He fucked up, right. And he admitted to it. He's
admitted to it, and he's apologized for it. And I don't think it was anything more than that. It's such a sticky topic, the whole race thing. You got to be really, really careful around it, and as you should be, because it can be a very sensitive topic that can really upset people. And
absolutely,
that should be the last thing anybody's trying to do.
Hey guys, I just wanted to give a quick update because as we've been editing this episode, so much more information has come out regarding this particular topic, regarding Joe Rogan and the whole misinformation thing. First off, the streaming service Rumble has offered Joe Rogan a $100 million deal. Joe Rogan, of course, the popular podcast host at the center of this whole controversy, reportedly turned down a $100 million offer to leave the streamer for the Canadian-based video platform Rumble. The rejection came during a stand-up comedy appearance in Austin, Texas. on Tuesday night, according to The Hollywood Reporter. When asked by a fan whether he would take the offer, Rogan replied, "No. Spotify has hung in there with me inexplicably, and let's see what happens." So that's his take so far on the Rumble offer. That's one big thing that's come out since our editing of this podcast. Another thing that's come out, which I found very interesting, we talked about it on this episode of the podcast with me and Jay, talking about Neil Young. Now, of course, Neil Young removed his music in protest of all the supposed misinformation that Joe Rogan was spreading regarding COVID-19. But to much of, not my surprise, but maybe some others, Neil Young's music is back on Spotify. Last month, Young removed his library from Spotify after its service refused to censor Joe Rogan. But just a few weeks later, Young's team quietly re-uploaded his music, says Fox Business. That's what you would call, I say, an unsuccessful boycott, as you can see. Young cried that Rogan was spreading false information, of course, about the vaccines, potentially causing death to those who believe this disinformation. He told Spotify it can have Rogan or it can have Young, not both. So Spotify chose Rogan, but added that it would hope Young would return soon, which he obviously did much sooner than most people would be surprised. Young's reps and Spotify did not respond to a request for comment regarding this, which, of course, I highly doubt that they would. Another very interesting piece of this whole topic that I found quite interesting was Joe Rogan slamming health expert Bill Gates. Now, we covered Bill Gates on an episode prior, talking about what his intentions are and what maybe the nefarious intentions may be underlying his outer core of what he's showing to other people and what he's investing. I think the return on investment is what he's really after. But we've covered that on another episode. You make your own decision. You do whatever. But again, we've covered Bill Gates in the past. But Joe Rogan slammed Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation for rapidly buying up farmland across the United States, and as well as his health initiatives. Rogan was incredulous as to how a man in such obviously poor health can give advice on how to be healthy, which is, listen, that's a pretty, good question. I mean, obviously, if you're going to have a guy, let's just say, who owns let's say LA Fitness and who's promoting the LA Fitness, and he might look like me, which I'm not in the greatest of health, but I'm not a bodybuilder either. And that's the kind of person you would have, maybe marketing something like that. And for somebody like Bill Gates, that's just not the case. And of course, he perceives himself to be some type of health expert. So going on to this, Rogan was referring to Gates' previous statement to MIT Technology Review, in which he argues the case for synthetic beef. Now, this has been a big ongoing controversy, of course, because of them trying to make us eat less meat, and it goes on and on. But Rogan quoted Gates, who told the outlet, "I do think all rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef." And he went on to say, Rogan, he said, "You can get used to the taste difference, and the claim is that they're going to make it taste even better over time. Eventually, that the green premium is modest enough that you can sort of change the quote unquote behavior of people or use regulation to totally shift the demand." Rogan continued quoting Gates saying, "The thing is that he keeps saying that you got to eat less meat, which we got to cut out of our consumption of meat out to be healthy. And we got to get used to eating these meat alternatives." When a guy like that says that, I'm like, are you making money because of this? Like, why are you saying that? Rogan said. So, by the way, he also said, you look like shit. And if you're eating those plant-based burgers or whatever the F you're doing, you're obese. Mentioned Rogan, who is now 54 years old. Of course, eats a very carnivorous diet and is in noticeably excellent health. So he goes on to say, a guy like that telling people about, things like that has got to be crazy with these man breasts and his gut. You're one of the richest guy on earth. You have access to the best nutrients. You could have an amazing trainer. You could be in a phenomenal shape, and you're giving out public health advice, and you're sick. It literally is like a non-athlete trying to coach professionals. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So the Joe Rogan Experience host continued on his rant, how are you giving any health advice when you look like that? Your health is piss poor. And it's a very good observation, a very good argument from Joe Rogan. Maybe if I could see if Joe Rogan was the one maybe promoting this, it makes sense, but it's not. But again, I just wanted to make a little quick video to add on to this podcast, to give you guys a little bit more content and enjoy what we're talking about here tonight. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Well, Jay, I think it's a good wrap up for tonight. I mean, tonight, I hope people really open their eyes and start to realize how, all this really works. I try to tell people who, especially who people come to me and parrot certain zinger lines that I hear on, like, these shows, these op-ed shows that are supposedly news shows, and the Let's Go Brandons or Trump tards or whatever, which way. I mean, it's left or right. It's all this. Everybody has zingers. Everybody has a line. Everybody has to fucking hidden agenda. And they're all, at the end of the day, Jay, they're all S and the D of the same people.
Yep.
And the people are Big Pharma. Wake up, people, because that's the way it is. But again, we present you with facts. You make your own decision. We're not here to tell you what to do. So I guess that's a good wrap up for tonight here, Jay. Anything else to add before we say goodnight? That's it, huh? Well, guys, listen, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Jay and I regarding misinformation, Joe Rogan, that whole bullshit that's going on. We hope that you enjoy that. Do some research. I implore every one of you to do, research about all this stuff, because it's really interesting. You can find all the pieces. All you have to do is just look. It just takes maybe an hour of your day, man. Really, just don't parrot what other people say, and all of a sudden you hear on TV, and then you take that as the gospel. Don't do that. That's the worst that you could do, because all you're doing is spreading the real misinformation. So again, I'm Will Martinez. Thank you for my host as well, Jay Galosi, for another edition of Dark Fringe Radio, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Dark Fringe Radio, your premier source for the paranormal, conspiracy theory and true crime.